Are you still trying to figure out whether to buy the iPad Mini 7? I can help. I've been using the iPad Mini 7 for about a month now. I have two of them, weirdly. One of them is not weird. One of them is an Apple review unit that's going back very soon, and the other one is mine. So we have the blue one there, and the the dark version there, which I prefer this one personally. And if you're watching this video, you are either thinking about going from the iPad Mini 6, which is this one here, to the iPad Mini 7, or you're thinking about getting into the iPad Mini game for the first time ever. And if you're in either of those camps, I understand why you're a little bit hesitant, because on the face of it, this isn't very different to this. However, after a month of use, I can confirm that I still absolutely love the iPad Mini, and in this video, this is basically an updated review, and I think it's everything that you need to know, no matter where you're coming from, in terms of buying the new iPad Mini 7. Before we get into it, just a very quick word from today's sponsor, which is Paperlike. This is incredibly simple. Every single iPad I buy has a Paperlike screen protector applied to it for two reasons. The first one is to protect that display because I don't want to damage it. The good news with that is that Paperlike does not dull the colors, the contrast isn't reduced, it looks just as good as it did before. And secondly, it makes, as the name suggests, it makes the iPad display feel like paper. Very hard to get across in this video, but if you do lots of writing, lots of drawing, illustrating, etc. with your Apple Pencil and your iPad, you'll know that on the display, the Apple Pencil just feels a bit unnatural. It's not that satisfying. When you add a paper-like screen protector, it becomes incredibly satisfying. It feels like paper, it sounds like paper, it's just an utter joy to use, and it transforms your iPad. They don't just make them for the iPad Mini, they make them for all iPads that you can currently buy, and to find out more, all you've got to do is click that link in the description. Let's start with what I love about the iPad Mini 7. It is still the most used iPad in this studio. I have an iPad Pro 11-inch. We do have an iPad Air, which Niall, who edits these videos, he has that, but the iPad Pro doesn't really get used that much. What else have I got? I've got a 10th generation iPad, which is, oh, this is embarrassing. It's acting as the weight for the overhead camera rig over there. I won't even show you that, that's embarrassing. But basically, the only iPad that I've ever carried on using regularly is the iPad Mini 7 or the iPad Mini 6 before it. And in fact, the iPad Mini 6 is here because I'm showing you the iPad Mini 7, and this is doing the job of reminding me what to talk about on this video. It's indispensable. I use it for note-taking, as mentioned a moment ago, with the Paperlike screen protector. I've tried to think about why is it so lovable and so usable, and I think, in fact I know, it's the form factor. There's nothing quite like this. There's certainly nothing like it in the Apple ecosystem at the moment. You know, the iPad Pro is, well, it's the same as the iPad Air in terms of the size. There are technical differences between the two, obviously. The iPhone is the iPhone, and it's very different to an iPad. The MacBook is a computer. This sits in between all of those on its own. It's not big enough to be an iPad Pro or an iPad Air alternative or a MacBook alternative, and it's not small enough to be an iPhone alternative. So it's very much a product in its own right, and I may get some stick from the Android fraternity about this, but I can't think of any Android device that beats this or that even exists. Is there an iPad Mini competitor out there? I don't think there is. And this time around with the iPad Mini 7, for some reason, and this isn't particular to the iPad Mini 7, it's just the iPad Mini in general, but this time around, now I've got the new one, I've been using this more as a Kindle as well. So it's been doing the whole thing here in terms of reminding me what to talk about and the note-taking, etc. But it's also been a book. So this has been sitting on my bedside table, and most evenings I'll use this, I'll be honest, over my Kindle to read books. And I know a lot of people do that. A lot of people do that with comics and stuff as well. It's just a lovely form factor for that kind of content consumption. I'm going on a very long flight next week, and once again, the iPad Mini 7 will come with me loaded up with Netflix stuff and Apple TV content, because again, it's great for that kind of use case. There's probably three things on your list of requirements and questions about the iPad Mini 7. Let's very quickly cover those off. The first thing is the display. It is the exact same display that's in the iPad Mini 6. The jelly scrolling thing, which is when if you have a web page like this, for instance, which has lots of text on it, and you do that, you can't see this on this camera, I'm afraid, but basically it kind of waves like that. Jelly scrolling is still on the iPad Mini 7, but it seems to be less than the iPad mini 6. I'm not sure if this is a placebo thing, possibly, it might be, but in my A/B testing, it is a little bit reduced on the iPad mini 7, but it is the exact same display, which means no ProMotion, it's 60 Hz, same 500 nits of peak brightness, it's the same thing. The second thing you're probably thinking about is battery life, and good news, it's an iPad, which means it lasts all day and the standby time is fantastic. I can't think of any iPad I've owned that has had bad battery life, and the iPad mini 7 is no different. The third thing is performance, and this has the A17 Pro chip, which is the same chip pretty much that went into the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max. The good news is it's very, very quick, and it's compatible with Apple Intelligence. And now, on to the downsides. Right, I've listed 4 things that I'm not happy about with the iPad mini 7. The first thing is the lack of Face ID. So this has Touch ID on the power button up here, which you get used to, but it's one extra step. And what I don't get about Face ID is that it's on the iPhone 16. It's been on the standard iPhone for quite a while now, and that means it's not a pro feature for Apple. So why don't we get Face ID on the brand new iPad mini 7? I have no idea. That is annoying. ProMotion, there's no ProMotion on this, and that is deemed a pro feature by Apple. You know, you have to get the iPhone Pro for that, you have to get the MacBook Pro for that, but it's jarring. I think when the A17 Pro chip is so good and this is such a quick iPad in every other regard, the fact that it doesn't have a fast refresh rate when every Android phone these days has 120 Hz. If you buy an Android phone, it will have a 120 Hz variable refresh rate. I don't understand why this hasn't got it. It would make this perfect. The third thing at the time of filming is that there is still no official Apple Magic Keyboard for the iPad mini. I want a mini Magic Keyboard so bad. The fourth thing is that it is still quite expensive. This isn't a cheap tablet. It's creeping into iPad Air territory. So I can understand why you might be looking at this and thinking, if I'm spending that much money on this when I start adding storage and that sort of stuff, why don't I just get the iPad Air? If you're thinking about going from the iPad mini 6 to the iPad mini 7, or you're looking at the second-hand market and thinking there's some very tasty deals to be had for this one, which there are at the moment, I have done a comparison video between these two, which I'll link to at the end of this one, but keep watching this one until the end because there's some other very quick things to go through. The first thing is it worth buying the iPad mini 7? And I think if you've been lusting after an iPad mini for a long time now, just go and buy one. There's never been a better time to do so because it's got very up-to-date chip, it's compatible with Apple Intelligence, and yes, I do have some misgivings about it, but I think they become very irrelevant very quickly as soon as you start using this. And yes, if your iPad mini 6 is on its last legs, just get one. If you're on the fence and you're looking at the iPad Air and you're thinking, ooh, it's a bit bigger, it's not that much different in terms of pricing, please just go to an Apple store or find a friend who's got both or one of them and get them in your hands. You know, get the iPad mini in your hands, get the 11-inch or even the 13-inch iPad Air in your hands, and I think immediately you'll work out which one is for you. It's a shame we didn't get ProMotion, it's a shame that there's no Face ID, but you can't beat this form factor. It's over to you now though, guys. I want to know, are you going to buy the iPad mini 7? It's been out now for over a month, so you've had a lot of time to think about it. Let me know what your decision is and why. Get involved down in the comments. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a little thumbs up. It makes a massive difference. And if you're thinking about going from the iPad mini 6 to the iPad mini 7, or you just want to see a proper comparison between these two iPads, keep watching for a link.